Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, November 18th. Is it the 18th? It's November 18th. And once again, I'm holding down the fort and just answering questions today. Dee went ahead and sent through a few of the latest questions. So let's go ahead and dive right into them. And here's a really good one. I like this, and it's hopefully we can answer a lot of questions out there with this. Um, my question is this is from Wendy. And what is your opinion on women lifting heavy weights? I get mixed answers about this one. I know we don't have as much testosterone as men, but what if we are bigger boned women? Should we still lift heavy or lighter with more reps? Great question. And yes, there's always going to be different opinions out there about lifting heavier or lighter. And the beauty of it is that there's so many different ways to skin the cat, as the old adage goes. And but you know what? It's a great question, and this is actually one as a trainer. I used to get this all the time, especially starting out. So many women, they would come to me and they say, "Well, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder, and so I'm afraid of lifting heavy." And then there's a lot of other trainers out there that are saying, "Oh, we can lift as heavy as we want, and women don't have the hormonal capacity to develop that much muscle." Well, to be and you know what though, going back, they are correct. If you look at a lot of these extreme female bodybuilders, number one, there's no way that the average woman has the hormonal capacity to look like some of these bodybuilders on stage. The natural ones, yes, but keep in mind these professional bodybuilders that are out there, they are hormonally they're more male than female. So you have to keep that in perspective when you step into the gym, so you're not scared to grab a barbell and to do a deadlift or to do a squat. Now it is also very true though that some women, based on their genetic background, they can develop more muscle. They can definitely develop larger glutes, quads, hams, and calves. So it's important to take some of these things into account. But nevertheless, everything really comes down to what are your goals. So if you want to get stronger, don't be scared to go heavy, because that's the only way you're going to get stronger. The more iron that you're adding to the bar, the more weights that you're throwing on there, the stronger you're going to get. It's as simple as that. However, if your goal is aesthetics and it's lean and it's slender, then well, I'm going to go ahead and steer you away from the heavier weights, and I am going to steer you toward lower weight, higher repetition. Don't be scared of either one. But if you're looking for overall, general physical preparedness and just overall general fitness, then you jump back and forth between the two. So if we're going to look at this just from a physiology perspective, granted, if you're lifting heavier, your rep range is going to be lower simply because you exhaust yourself faster. The muscle only has so much fuel in it, and especially at these higher intensities, whether we're dealing with the phosphagen systems or the glycolytic systems, the muscle's only going to last so long. But also keep in mind when you're going through a range of motion with a muscle and we're lifting heavy, the heavier that you're going to lift, we are going to be breaking down muscle fibers. And it's when we break down those muscle fibers, that's when the muscle is stimulated for growth. So I'll say that again. It's when we lift heavier, of course, and when we break down those muscle fibers are going to be stimulated for growth. However, even when we're lifting light, we're still breaking down muscle fibers. So, you can actually look at this both ways. But it is true, we tend to, when we start lifting at a higher intensity and a lower rep range, typically the rep range of 1 to 5 reps, those are going to be your strength rep range. Now, there's not going to be this insane stimulus for growth, for hypertrophy, to actually get that muscle to grow bigger. That typically happens when we start training in about the 6 to 15 rep range. Reason being is that you've got the muscle under tension at a high intensity for a longer period of time. So the more muscle fibers we can break down and the more inflammation that we can create in the muscle, that's actually the stimulus that gets muscle to grow. I'll say that again. The more inflammation that we can create in the muscle, that releases the stimulus that the muscle needs to grow. So of course, when the muscle undergoes stimulation, and that inflammation, by being torn down during the eccentric phase of the contraction, that's actually when the muscle is lengthening. So say I'm going to do a bicep curl. Remember, I'm not breaking a lot of muscle fibers as I'm curling here. I'm breaking the fibers as my bicep is lengthening on the way down. So if I want to grow my bicep, what do? I want to create a lot of inflammation in there during the eccentric phase of the motion, and then I simply feed it, feed it, feed it, feed it, feed it. Because it's once I create that inflammation, my body releases all kinds of growth factors locally, and of course there's a big hormonal response after the workout, and so it's going to release growth factors, and then of course males, we produce a lot more testosterone, women still produce it though, and then the muscle is going to be stimulated for growth. It'll be stimulated, then we feed it, the muscle grows. So what happens if you're lifting heavy and you're at a calorie deficit? Well, you know what? When we're playing in that 1 to 5 rep range, that's more of an electrical lift is what I like to call it. And electrical meaning that's the nervous system talking. It's really all about how fast that brain can send a signal down the spinal cord out through, it's what we call motor units. It's a neuron, and then of course all of the different, cut that right there. So when we're talking about strength lifting and in the 1 to 5 rep range, this is something I like to call it's an electrical lift. It's really more about the nervous system and how fast we can get that brain to fire the signal down the spinal cord out to the muscle that it's stimulating. And there's not, if we're playing in a 1 to 5 rep range, the muscle might be under tension for a really short amount of time, 10 to 15 seconds. So it's not going to get the same kind of inflammation. Say we're playing now in that really the low intensity, long duration range. Say you're going to do 50 push-ups. Well, guess what? That muscle is going to be under tension for a long period of time. You can still elicit a certain inflammation response, and then you're going to get really sore, and your body's still going to release those growth factors. But on another side of the scale, we're also depleting the glycogen in the muscle, and there's this other huge, like all these other metabolic benefits too, that low intensity, high duration type of muscle contraction. So really, it all comes down to what your goals are. And so if you're looking for aesthetic kind of goals, I'm going to steer you away from that 6 to 12, 6 to 15 rep range. Sometimes we can actually play in that 1 to 5 every once in a while. Let's go ahead and just dip our toes in the water there, maybe once every week or two, with some of your big pushes, your pulls, and your squats. Just have some fun with it, and just to increase your overall general fitness. But then let's jump back over on the other side of the fence, and let's stay in this really high rep range area where we're going to be what I call draining the tanks, just taking all the fuel out of the muscle. That way, keeping the body at a good calorie deficit, and just more focusing on ramping up that metabolic rate so we can create a good calorie deficit, burn a lot of fat. So you could really go both ways, and I hate to play Switzerland on this whole thing, but I really do like to stay about as neutral as possible on it because it depends on your goals, it depends on where you want to go, and really the sky's the limit. We can manipulate your body several ways. We can have you lift heavy with minimal muscle growth. It really depends, because keep in mind, the muscle is only going to grow if you feed it. And if you're at a calorie deficit, it's kind of hard to grow. So hope that helps out. I hope I didn't confuse anyone out there. And guys, have a wonderful Wednesday. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.